Okay, so evidently I got my parts in a day early. So I just uploaded the video and went outside, and on my porch was a box here. And it is my 4 standard motor company fuel injectors. So we're going to try and install these. Let's go ahead and get this back together again. If anybody's seen the other one, you know that I'm not an editing person. I'm hoping that I stay in frame. I'm trying to work on this, but in the last video you saw me actually take this one out. Not a hard process. You had to have flat screwdriver. Sorry about that. I had the fan running and I couldn't even hear myself think. So, you just took the flat screwdriver and you removed the clip that is on here to hold them on. So, I'm going to go ahead and reinstall one of these. And from what I understand, it's, you have to put a little oil around the O-ring so that it will go in there easier, and we're going to try to do that. So here it is. Here's the new one, and if you can see, much better shape than the old one, but they appear to be the same. This is from, I think this was a Crown Automotive one, and this is from Standard. It is a new part. It isn't a reman, but they look a lot alike. So anyway, I'm going to take a little bit of oil here, and I'm going to put a little on my table. I'll clean it up later. And I'm just going to take and rub some around that O-ring so that it's supposedly easier to push in. I'm going to take this, and then I'm going to take it and try to force it down in there, and it went in pretty easy, a lot easier than I thought it was. And then I'm going to take the clip. Hopefully this is all still in frame, but the clip needs to ride right above the lip. Not my glove. All right, so what's in there? That is correct right there. So again, not a hard process. Going to do that with the other 3. So I will try to keep it in frame. I'm you know, doing the best I can. Pull the clip, wiggle and pull. Just making sure there's nothing in there. Take the new one. Put a little bit of that oil around the new O-ring. Place it in. Take the old clip and reinstall the clip on it. Get it off. There we go. And I have 2 of them installed. So it doesn't take very long, as you can tell. Hopefully I'm doing everything right. I'm not a mechanic. I said it before. So we'll go ahead and get the other 2. Gas is all over my countertop here. It'll do. So hopefully we've got these other 2 in frame so you'll be able to see. I'm going to take the clips. Since I know what I'm kind of doing now, I'm going to take both clips, pull both of them. This was the bad one. This one right here was the one that was reading 2.3. And I may get my tester over here and show you what I mean, the resistance in them. So this is the bad one. Don't look no worse than the other one, but I'm gonna put it aside separately so I'll be able to tell. And this is one of them that had 18 resistance. So as I told you in the other video, I'm gonna keep those in a little kit in the Jeep if I'm ever out on a long trip where I need to possibly change one because the same thing happens again. I'll have one in the kit. So I'm going to do that. Maybe the stupidest idea in the history of man, but it's my idea, so I'm going to stick with it. All right. Oil on the table. Remove this from the package. In. They're going a lot easier than I thought they would. And the clip back on. And the final one. And if you didn't watch the other one, basically this is a Jeep, 1995 Jeep Wrangler Rio Grande Edition 4-cylinder, 2.5 liter. Engine, and it had a I was driving and it started acting really bad, backfiring, jerking around, almost stalling, feel like. And so I ran the self-diagnostic code, but you do that by turning your key on and off 3 times, leaving it on, and then counting the lights on your dash. And it ran a code 27, and 27 basically says I need to check my fuel injectors. They weren't getting a code from it. So on the side of the road, I went ahead and I just pulled the wires that went to each one of these injectors. And this is in the front here. And when I pulled that one, with the vehicle running, it ran even worse. So I put it back on. Did the same thing. After I put that on, I pulled this one off. Ran terrible, worse. Put that lead back on, went to the third one, did the same thing. It ran worse. And then I got to the fourth one. When I pulled the wires from this injector here, it didn't change a bit. So I knew that that was the injector's problem. Now, it could have been a wire. I was told that, it might have to check the wires to see if there was continuity along the wire. But the bottom line is this one was not acting right. When I got to the house after limping it home, I ran a ohm meter, ran my tester and test the ohms of each one of these old ones. And the first one, second one, third one, all were around 18, which was not in spec. The spec for these is supposed to be 14.5. And this one was 2.3. So that last one that was causing the trouble that I already knew was the trouble definitely was not turning on. It was not opening up. So that's why I ordered these. I found these actually at Walmart. These same ones at O'Reilly's were $70 a piece with a $10 core charge. And these same ones at Walmart were $37. They're both new. They were $37 and no core charge. So in other words, I can keep these in a kit once I clean them up, and these old ones, and have them in case something were to happen again at some later date. And if anybody knows that they have a shelf life and you can't do that, then let me know. I'd hate to be down the road for that one. But anyway, long story short, I have now installed them, and all it is to go back and redo the parts that I took off in order to get to this fuel rail. Then we'll start her up and see if everything is the way it's supposed to be. I did say that I was going to test. I don't know how it will work with this, I'll be able to do it or not, but we're going to try. Hopefully, if I put it there, we'll be able to see. All right. So with this meter, we'll put it on the ohms here, the resistance, and if you look, there are two pins in here, and if you touch the red to one and the black to the other, you'll see that it says 18.1. Now this is one of them that was good, all right, but again, should have said 14. I'm gonna test one of these in a minute, but here was the one that was in that 4 spot, and it ran, I think, 2.3. Now I'm getting nothing. So absolutely nothing now. Huh. Well, that's weird. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Well, now it's showing nothing. And at the time, though, when it was in there, it was running a 3.2. But right now, it's doing nothing. So I can't get it to register at all. Even if I touch these together, I should get something. That's me just touching the 2 leads together. I get that. And I'm getting nothing here. Okay, well, there's obviously this one was the problem. As you saw, that one was 18. Let's just turn this fuel rail over so I can pour some more gas out on my thing and just test one of these, and hopefully you'll be able to see what it's running. It's, see, this is running 18.4. So I don't know if the specs I read are wrong. I could have just changed the one that was bad. It looks like, but hey, I've got all new injectors. I'm not upset with the price I got them at. These are originals back in the day, and I will put these back in the kit for later. If anybody knows why these are running 18 when the specs say they should be 14, let me know. But these were the OEM replacements. So with them running the same as that, I'm starting to assume that something I read on the internet might not be true. Fake news. I don't know. All I know is that this better work. All right, so I'm going to take this video over to the Jeep, and hopefully we can get this reinstalled and everything will run just great. So give me just a second. I'm going to pause here. Okay, so I've got it positioned. Hopefully you'll be able to see what's going on here. And we're going to try to reinstall these. So everything is just going to be a reverse of what I did when I took it off. As I told you in the first one, I taped up things so I'd know where things go back. Hopefully everything that I need to have done, I did. And I'm going to take this fuel rail and I'm going to try to keep from any of the junk going down in it and push forcefully these injectors until they seat themselves down in the sun. Okay, that's not making me feel good. I don't know how far they're supposed to go down in there, but wow. Okay. I'll shine my light over and see what I think. I figure, I just assumed there would be some kind of seating of them. Yeah, they need to go further down over here. I think they definitely need to go further down. All right, I think they're all seated in there. All right. Well, guys, this is the problem with not being a mechanic. I don't know how far those seat down in it. They feel firm. I just expected to hear some kind of auditory click or something, but that's about as much pressure I'm willing to put on them. All right, so I'm gonna put the bolts back in, and I'll, yep, all right, we're gonna go with that. Let me get the bolts back in and see if we can get this thing running, and then I guess I'll check for leaks to make sure I'm not leaking at any of the cylinders. You know, that's the big deal with not knowing how it's supposed to seat, whether or not I have pushed it down on there far enough. So anyway, we're going to start by putting back the studs that go in here. And these studs, if you remember, they also have to hold other stuff. So I'm going to start by putting the stud back in its place. And this is where I'm going to have that deep socket for the 13 millimeter. And then on top of that would be a 10 that would hold the sensor or harness wire or whatever it was holding back here in the back. And then at the same time, you've got the throttle cable that has to go on the front one, the mount. So with those studs in there, they'll have a 10 millimeter bolt on top of it. So I'm going to get these 13s tightened down. It feels sturdy. I'm hoping I've done it right, but I guess only time will tell. So anyway, I'm going to tighten these down. I did not read anywhere what the pounds pressure for the fuel rail is. I'm going to do it snug. On here, I'm guessing since it's in that manifold, it'd be something like 20 to 25 pounds. I'm just going to snug them up. If I read anything that says they need to be tighter, then I will do that. I'll come out here and do it later. But I do not know of any, I couldn't find any specs on fuel rail bolts torque. So I'm just going to torque them too tight, and then if I read anything or find out anything, I'll go from there. So it is absolutely stable in there. The bolts are holding it. They were right in place. I'm assuming that that means that they are absolutely in the right seat position, and I've done things right. Now, but something I didn't do in the first one that I think I need to do this one is I took these leads, the wires that go to the fuel injectors. I'm gonna go ahead and put them back on. I had pulled them off in order to make sure they stayed in order. They're pretty easy because they're the length you need for that. So again, I think I'm gonna go ahead and get these in there. Won't get in the way with the bolts or anything. So I put all the leads back on. I'm also going to go ahead with another part of it, which is I'm going to put the fuel rail cover back on. There's no sense in me having it off at this point anymore. I was actually the only reason I had this fuel the harness cover off is because I was going to test for the continuity of the wires, and I had to see more of them, and so really absolutely did not have to take that off if you didn't want to. So it's back on. Now we're going to reverse everything, and since this rail's back on, I'm going to go ahead and get this sensor hooked up. This wire here went to a sensor down below. It was just a straight plug-in, and so I'm going to put it back on, and there it is. And you can see that it lays in. You can't see anything actually, but it goes in just like that. And now the sensor's back on. I'm going to go ahead and reconnect my gas lines. All right, so my gas line there. And I want to get that on the other. I wish I hadn't done that. So I'm going to take that gas line back off and move this over. So the gas line's over here. All right. So I'm going to reconnect the gas lines here on the fuel rail. They were super simple, and I was so glad of that because everybody was talking like how hard it was. Now this is the part I have to repair, and really all it is it has some coating, some foam around it, and it's a thin tube, and it just came loose from my the wire I had already on it. So I'm going to just go ahead real quickly and get that back on, loosen up the clamps on it, slide it back in there. Get it back in there. This had a different type of hose on it. I took some fuel line hose and put it on there because these would overheat so much that the one that was on it originally kept bending and flexing, and everything would just fall off, come loose, and it'd just be hanging sometimes when I get home. And so I tried to get that part. I could not find it. Now that was at box offices and looking online. Now, if you actually knew what the name of it was, whatever hose this is, you probably could have found one. I just don't. I'm not a mechanic, as I said before. I do the best I can, just trying to learn the stuff as I go. And if you didn't notice in the first video, I did this. I taped up the things I need to make sure I reinstall. So that's why that tape's on there. It wasn't just taped up to hold it. I am going to talk about one part that I did tape up that I think is the silliest thing ever. But let me get this loosened up. I'm going to tighten it so it wouldn't slide off while I was messing. And get this reinstalled up on here. And that just goes into the side of the valve cover. And I'll tighten it right in there. So hopefully you can see that. If not, none of this is super secretive. You can tell where everything goes on your Jeep. It's kind of funny. You can see everything. I've looked in a buddy of mine. We were working on his Toyota 4Runner, and you couldn't get a screwdriver in between parts. You were just constantly having to find a way to remove something so you'd have room to work on it. I'm so glad to be working on something where I can actually get in and actually work on it. So anyway, got our hose back. So that's all good. All right, so the part I was going to tell you about was this one. It is the, oh, yeah, and there it goes. That's what I was afraid of. Huh. All right. May have to pause the video. All right, this one has an elbow on it. And this elbow, I'm going to have to get a new one. I just basically duct taped the old one. And it goes on your pressure regulator, your fuel pressure regulator. And there's none of them. This is the part that they said is a Dorman. Can't remember the number, 40, 37, something like that. And it's an elbow that goes on here and allows that to just sit right like that. It gets so hot around that manifold that no matter what plastic it is, it just is extremely hot, and it never holds up. So I had to duct tape it just to hold it on there. So I'm going to find that part real quick and get that on there. I don't see it on the floor, so that's awesome. So it may take me a minute to get that part. Let me pause this video and try to find it. But anyway, I got to get a new Dorman elbow to put on it, and then I'm going to figure out something. I can't keep doing that. This is absolutely ridiculous that it's not meant for that. It's not meant for that at all. All right, so let me pause this just a second, and then I will be. Okay, so I found the part. It's laying on the floor. It did go through all the little nooks and crannies of the Jeep, but again, I've got to replace this. This is just going to be on there long enough for me to get this thing started. But if you look, there's the elbow. It gets really hot. I reinforced it with black tape, electrical tape, and it just needs to be stronger, a better material. But anyway, I'm gonna put that in there, remove my flag, and put that in there. And then this just basically goes on to part of it. All right, so I put my elbow back on. If you, I guess you can't see that. I'm gonna try to turn it there. This part here, again, this gets way too hot, but it will hold up long enough for me to get a new part, and it goes right on the fuel pressure regulator here. A lot of people, I think they clamp that, clog up both ends of that and run it without that vacuum hose on it, but it does run terrible without it on it. When this comes off, you know the difference. And I can actually, when I do this and barely touch it, it will get where it runs a little funny. So, all right, so now we're at the point where we're going to take this throttle body cable, throttle cable, and we're going to put it back in its spot, which is going to be right in here. Probably wish I hadn't have done that, but anyway, rehook the cable up. So on that part, it was pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and get it mounted, and then I'm going to pull that to it. So just for future note, might be better if you don't put all these vacuum hoses back on until you've mounted that, just for room purposes. There's plenty of room for me to do it, but it would have been easier if I had to just put that on first. So I'll put my 10mm bolts back in the two front holes here. Hopefully you can see where that is. I'll try to move you around a little bit. If you look here, it's on the front of that mount. And then there'll be another one. They'll be right below where the fuel lines come in, right here. So hopefully you'll be able to see that. I'm gonna try to get that in there and thread the needle. Get this one out of the way because I know that's just gonna fall off. All right, and then put that down in there, in that hole. Oh, there it goes. I dropped it after all. And I dropped it a second time. All right, if you'll bear with me, you know what's about to happen. I gotta go fish for a boat. So I was right. It would have been easier not to put all these vacuum hoses back on before you did this. But it should be able to be done. All right. Now that's the two 10mm bolts that are on the front of this. So I'll hand tighten them now. Get my tools back on it. And then there'll be a nut up here on the stud. Let me get that out of the way a little bit. There's going to be a nut up here on the stud right here. Right there. So if you can't see it, I'm sorry, but that's where it is. I'm trying to get where you can see it. But anyway, I'm going to put that nut on, and then I'm going to tighten everything down. So and guys, I know this video isn't good, but with this, you should be able to look. If you have a YJ, you should be able to find these three bolts. They're pretty easy to see without everything around. So I'm going to back us out, try to reset everything, cause some nausea. and see how this works. All right. So hopefully you'll be able to see the rest of it. All right. So I'm going to tighten those down before I forget. And I still have one more 10 millimeter nut to go back there. But I want to get these so I can get that vacuum hose hooked back up. That's 13. I need the 10. Again, I don't know the specs. I'm going to assume that just tightening it pretty good is good enough. And then if I find any specs on them, what's happening? There's not the camera there. If I find out anything else, I'll let you know in the comments. But at this time, I'm just going to tighten them down. Wow, I got to cut that part out. I don't know how to do that. But okay, I'm sorry. It's getting a little bit sweaty here, and the sweat is on the actual part that was holding the camera, and it just kind of slipped off. So I've had to restart it. I'm going to try to splice them together. I do not know how to do that. So hopefully I can figure it out or get somebody to help me, or else this is not going to be a video. So I've got those two tightened down. Now I'm going to go to the stud where this is mounted and tighten that one down. And I got one more nut to get on it, another 10 millimeter back in the back. I have to put that sensor, harness, whatever, the wire thing, whether it's grounded or not, I need to go ahead and get it back on. I'm going to go ahead and get that back on. Get that out of the way. All right. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get that on before I forget. This has, like I say, some kind of sensor, harness, something that goes on there. Get it on the stud and tighten that down. Whether it has to go back on there and ground it out, I don't know. That's where it was. Guess where it's going back. There we go. And so last 10 millimeter nut. It wants to sit right on that manifold, and I don't want it to sit there. Trying to turn it every which way to get it. Probably gonna knock the camera down again. This is seeming a lot harder than it is. I'm trying to keep the harness or whatever this is up away from the manifold a little bit. And because of that, I'm running into issues with clearance to keep that happening. So you may not even see what I'm doing. All right, well, it's as far up as I can get it away from the manifold, and I do not recall anything about where it was at before, other than I don't remember touching the manifold. So that's as far as I can get it up. All right, the next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and reconnect the cable here to the throttle body. And this throttle body here, it's just push it on. So there's an opening, I get it over and I click it on. That is there. Now in the other videos I've seen, they said it's a YJ. Again, I thought they said it's a 91. They had a spring that went from this to that. This has already got a spring around it. So there was no spring to hold this in any place. It goes back and forth on its own. So I don't know if that was a different model that I was watching. It did help me. So, I mean, even if it's not the right model, it did help me. But again, some of the things are different on it. All right, so I put back each and every piece. Now all I have to do is bottle up the air to the throttle body here, and that should take care of everything. We can start rehook the battery up and try to start her up. So I'm taking that trash out of the throttle body at this point. While it was open, by the way, I did spray some carburetor cleaner in it and cleaned it out. Yeah, it had a little bit of carbon in it, very little. So I sprayed some in it, cleaned it out. I'm sure that's perfectly fine. All right, I'm gonna put that on, reattach it here, and then just squeeze the clamps until they can't be squeezed anymore. And they should be snug on there. All right, so I've got that hose hooked up. And then one final one. By the way, speaking of this thing comes out all the time. It has been a problem. I thought that you could remove that part here. That is not the case. It broke. So I don't know how to replace it. I don't even know what it's called. If anybody knows what that is, this part here, I thought it was the PVC valve. But it's not. There's not one on the Jeep. So I was trying to remove it to get it back on there. It functions, but you can see a little bit of vapors of the oil get out of it from around where it's not connected anymore. So I've rehooked my vacuum. I've rehooked the tube here. My throttle cable has been reattached. I've reattached my air filter to the throttle body and all the air intake from the valve cover. I've got my fuel lines up, but I do not have pressure in there. Now, if I remember right, I have to rehook the battery and then go and turn the car to on, pump the pedal a few times, then try to start it. That's what we're going to do. I'm going to get the battery hooked back up. I do not think anything else I've forgotten. I hope not. So that's what we're going to do next. So here goes nothing. I'm going over to the battery. I'm going to reconnect it. And I just put new cables on this because they were so bad. They'd gotten hard. I don't know if it's from heat or what, but they'd gotten so hard that they were hard to handle trying to get them back on. So I went and got new cable ends, cut the ends off, put them on. That helped immensely. I actually put the wrong, guys, I knew it was going to do it. I actually put the wrong battery back on this. I put a right-hand battery. It had more cranking amps. So there was enough room with the cable to rechange the setup on there. And I feel pretty good about it. You know, it had 650 cranking amps on this one for the same price of one that had 550. And it was the only difference was it was a right-hand mount versus the regular mount for the Jeep. And there was enough room in the positive cable that I didn't have any problem with that. Like I say, I put new terminal ends on it just because it was giving me such a hard time. One of them had actually started cracking. So I've got the battery reattached, and we are going to try to start this thing up. Hopefully the camera will hold on. While I'm doing that, I've got all the stuff rehooked. And not being a mechanic, I always worry that I've forgotten something. I hope you are like that too, because it keeps you from really messing things up. So we're gonna go in here. hopefully this will hold on. We'll start this thing up. No, we're not, because we don't have keys. All right, so I'm going to pause this video for just a second, come back with the keys, because it's easier to start it that way. And then we'll try it together. Okay, so again, I'm going to try to start it up. As far as I can tell, the procedure is go in there, turn the key to the on or auxiliary or accessory, and then pump your gas pedal a couple times, and then start her up. I need to make sure there's no gas leak as well. So when I get fuel pressure up, I may come out here and check again before I actually try to start it. Any leaking that I can tell. Turn the light on. All right, doesn't look like there's any fresh gas. Now, again, this is what I think the procedure for repressurizing it. It may not, and then I may have gas leak anyway. So I'm going to go and start it now, and then I'll come back and see if there is any leaking coming from there, but there's none right now, so that's a good sign. At least we're gonna call it that. Hopefully you can hear me over this. I'm just looking to see if there's any leaking around those. The check engine light did go off, so that was one of the things. I'm going to run the codes here in just a second, so I'll be showing you how to do that, or try to. But again, this thing's going to fix the problem. It is running, usually, from what I understand by spec, this thing would run around 700 RPMs at idle, and it's running about 900. So I don't know if that's the computer's got to relearn it or what. Remember the thing I was telling you about the pressure vacuum? If I just, well, absolutely doing nothing. Okay. Before that would bog down a little bit, and I don't know. It does not have any gas leaks, so that's good, and it's running without a code. So I'm going to take you up there, turn it off, and then we're going to run the codes. What I expect to see is, let me turn this off and I'll tell you what I expect. So what I expect to see on the codes when I run them is I expect to see a 12, which is one blink and then two blinks, and that 12 is a faulty clutch relay for fan or for air conditioner. This does not have air conditioning, so you're going to get a 12. I believe that's what that is. No, I'm sorry. 12 is the battery has been unhooked. in the last 60 cycles or something. 34 maybe, 34. But anyway, you'll see it when we go through. I expect to see that one. That is the one about the air conditioner fan clutch. There is no air conditioner on here, so therefore you're going to get that fault. And I think it's 34. And then what the code was that told me the injector was bad was 27. I expect that one to be gone. Hopefully. If not, maybe running a cycle and then trying it again. But it's not showing the check engine light, so therefore I'm hoping that that will have set that code done. I may have to unhook the battery again and then refire it up to get that code to go. If we still see it, that's what I'll try next. And then you'll see a 5.5 code, which means end of code reading. So I'm going to show you how to do that. And again, I'm going to show you the battery that I replaced that with. It's a 58 that goes on the Jeep YJ. I got it, unlatch it here. It's 58, and I went with a 58R. So if you can see, it's a 58R. I put new terminal ends on it. But the reason I went with this one is it had 610 cold cranking amps. The other had 550. It's the same price. It was a decent price, 2-year warranty. I mean, two-year warranty on the battery. But it's a good price, 99 bucks. And if you've looked at batteries, some of them with 2 years are 130, 140 bucks on this Jeep. You know, I've always got them ever starts for as long as I've had this Jeep, pretty much. I put those on and they've done a really good job. They've lasted more than the 2-year warranty on every one of them. As a matter of fact, the one I just changed off was a 2018, March of 2018. And so I just changed it. It is July of 23 or 22. So it was 4 years. It's doubled what it was supposed to. So I was not unhappy with it. If you're getting the same warranty out of something, you're doing the price. Unless you're getting a lot more life out of them, stick with the ones that you can go with. But anyway, I went with the right, and it did put a strain on the cable there. It didn't put a strain on it, but it absolutely had to be routed differently. And but I'm happy with it, and I have more cold cranking amps. So, all right. I'll take you around here. We're going to run the diagnostic check, and hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. In the Jeep, it has a self-diagnostic test. So when you run this, what you're going to do is you're going to turn the key. All right, guys, I don't know if I lost you there. Something happened on the way to this place, and so I may have to splice this together. None of this video may see the light of day, but what I'm going to show you is the procedure for self-diagnostic in a YJ. So if you look up here, that panel is going to have lights in it. And when I turn this key on and off 3 successive times and leave it on, it's going to go through a series of blinks. You have to count them. And so I'm going to try to do that with you. But like I say, I should see certain ones I know of, and then there's going to be ones I won't. So 1, 2, 3, and leave it. 1, 1, 2, 12. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So 33. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what that did was it gave me a code for 12, which is battery's been unhooked in the last 60 cycles. It gave me a 33, which is air conditioner clutch fan, which this doesn't have air conditioning, so therefore it doesn't have one of those. And then a 55, which is into code. My 27 code is gone. So it seems to have fixed the problem. I'm going to clean up my tools and take her for a drive. And guys, I appreciate you being with me. I know that I don't film well, but I am trying to show you how to do certain things on the YJ that I have to learn. And I watch a lot of videos, and some of them are good and some of them aren't. And it's just a learning curve here. So guys, have a great day.